Praise be to the Most High God. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today? Praise be to the Most High God. I am Christ. I am disciple. It's been a little while since I actually spoke with you guys, and I'm here in sunny island of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to share with you guys first and foremost a piece of scripture before we get into what we're going to talk about. It comes from Matthew chapter 21, and it's verses 1 to 6. It goes, as Jesus and his disciples approached Jerusalem, they came to the town of Bethphage on the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent two men ahead of him, said, go into the village there, and said, you will see a donkey tied there with a colt inside of it. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you what you're doing, say the Lord needs it, and he will immediately send it. This was done to fulfill prophecy that tell the people of Israel, look, your king is coming to you. He's humble, riding on a donkey, even on a donkey's coat. The two disciples did as Jesus said. Prophecy. Some people say predestination. Some people say seeing the future, predicting the future, speaking into the future, manifesting into the future. I was listening to an interview on Channel 4 with a comedian from Egypt. And he was talking about free speech, that we have free speech in this world, but we can't change the world. It's really the people with power who can do that. We've been taught in Western society, I'm not going to talk about Eastern society yet, but we have been taught in Western society that you can make a difference. You can change the world. And there are a lot of westernized ideals we've been taught over the years that love for humanity trumps everything else. In fact, love in and of itself is the ultimate quality or virtue. We've been taught in Western society, that we need to have values. Some values are acceptable and some values are not. That's what we've been taught in the West. Now, I say all of this because the topic that we are speaking on right now, we're going to speak on Restore the SnyderVerse. We're going to speak on RebelMoon. We're going to speak on Netflix and Avatar, The Last Airbender, that series, which is pretty dope. I gotta hand it to them. Nickelodeon helping out actually did a great job. And we're going to speak on Free Palestine. Avatar, The Last Airbender is based on Eastern philosophy that has been westernized in this series and brought to us. The Bible really speaks from Eastern philosophy, like most of the other Eastern books, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, and other holy books. But the Bible has been westernized and brought to us. It's an Eastern book. Why am I saying all of this? Well, when we look at Israel versus Palestine, what's going on right now? we see, those of us taught by Western values and Western philosophy, a hypocrisy. A hypocrisy when it comes to the value of human life. A hypocrisy when it comes to the Western values we've been taught from the West, whether you be Christian, whether you be a fan of Western entertainment and content, whether you are a believer in Western values. We are now met with this paradox. And suddenly, the world we thought we knew opens up to a world we are not familiar with. It is said somewhere, to the victor comes the spoils. To the victor comes the spoils. I just read from the Bible, a westernized Eastern book. I read on what some will call predestination. Others would call it prophetically speaking. Others will speak about that they call precognition. Whatever you view it as, in the Western mindset or Western thinking, there must be some sort of explanation for it, because the westernized world bases its foundation upon science, logic, reasoning, but not on spirituality, not on a foundation of spiritism, a foundation on that outside of the visible. And it's because of that, oh my God, I have to excuse if you hear anybody else yelling in the background. Do not worry. We are not in a studio here. We're in a house. And so in this type of society I live in and the atmosphere, it is very combative. So if you hear somebody yelling in the background, excuse it. So as I was saying, it is a conflict of philosophy when one speaks about themselves being spiritual versus being religious in this atmosphere that we live in, the Western world. The Western world less believes in phenomenology and in spiritism or in spirituality, and more latch on to that which can be seen, heard, felt, tasted, touched. Such the westernized world is more agnostic, aka also atheistic. Though they feign and pretend to believe in that which is spiritual. So that a phenomenology like what I just read to you is something in which the Western world would look at and try to explain to you why it is as it is written in an Eastern book. And say, oh, he made an arrangement probably with the people. And so he knew the tongue already. So he sent the people to the tongue and they did what they did. When in fact, that is not the case. The case is he was able to see into the future and make it happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, what they call Jesus the Christ. We're going to follow in his footsteps. We're going to do the very same thing. It is written in the Bible, in Hebrews chapter 11, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And as such, if you believe all things can happen through you, it's about faith. But faith without works is dead. What made us able to get the Snyder Cut and what will enable us to restore the SnyderVerse, as controversial as it may sound, is faith. And what will allow us to see a free Palestine, as controversial as it may sound, is also faith. It is the faithless, it is those Westerners who do not believe in these powerful spiritual concepts and truths that are not able to see with the third eye and also manifest a reality that normally the average person cannot do. Now, in order to strengthen your faith in what I'm saying, so that you will believe what I'm saying, and then we can transition into the entertainment aspect of this, an aspect of which the West sort of believes and yet doesn't believe at the same time. I will prove to you through things that have happened before, and then I will show you from things that are actually happening right now why this is a truth. Let me begin with the very most important thing, and I will incorporate all of these things together. So, The Last Airbender, Avatar The Last Airbender from Netflix, I'm going to incorporate that into Rebel Moon Part 2 and Rebel Moon Part 1, which we already spoke about. And I'll also show you how this is all a part, even Restore the SnyderVerse, how no matter how cynical someone may be about effecting change in society, that you and I and 7.9 billion people in this populated world can effect change, no matter how powerful human beings say they are. That even from the context of the Matrix, we can understand, and I'm talking about Matrix, the entertainment, the Matrix, and the Matrix sequels. I'm not talking about the last sequel because I didn't see that one, but I'm going to show you that it is important in order for people with power to be able to wield their power, they must get your consent. They must get you to believe that they are that powerful. It is all mental. It is all due to the mind. And no matter how much they want to speak to you and make you believe that they are powerful, it is up to you to choose if they are as powerful as they are or not to choose it. See, it comes down to you. You do make a difference. I've said this time and time and time again, that the power lies in your hands more than it lies in their hands. No matter how powerful they are, no matter how powerful they may be perceived to be. I'm going to give you a number of examples of this, and it's up to you to either accept or reject these things as true. I shall begin. First, let us begin with the elections that are supposed to come out in the United States of America very soon. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola. None. These are the options they have given to you. Joe Biden, Democrat representative. Donald Trump, Republican representative. Or choose none. You have three choices. But that's a lie. It's an illusion. There are other candidates who have enlisted themselves as President of the United States of America. There's Robert Kennedy Jr., there's Cornelius or Cornel West. There's also another, I think there are two other candidates. You do not have to choose Joe Biden or Donald Trump. There is more choices, but it's up to you to mobilize yourself and resoundingly choose the other candidates. I will show you how powerful interest is able to carry through these campaigns by pouring in tremendous funding and running media machines, media houses, and also being able to drive that power through mainstream media. But now, in this age of social media, there are alternative sources to be able to push and drive and promote and campaign. Therefore, the influence that said PACs used to have, from APAC all the way to other great financing powerhouses, has now been diffused, and you now have the power, not only through social media, as you did so successfully with Free Palestine, but also through new mechanisms of power. You have more power today, globally and locally, to influence impacts in countries. You, through your power and social media, has impacted the UK and turned their stance against what's happening in Palestine. You, in your powerful impact, has caused the International Court of Justice to be influenced by South Africa. You see, you have more power than you think you have. And particularly now with the globalism through the internet and social media, you have an impact so much greater than you can perceive and see. Restore the SnyderVerse and even release the Snyder Cut would never have succeeded had it not been for social media, had it not been for the coming together of the global community on the issue of Zack Snyder and his movies elucidating the truth. This would never have happened had it not been for social media and also for you, like-minded individuals like myself, coming together to effect this change in what was an epic event in Hollywood's history. And it will continue to be remembered as an epic event in Hollywood's history because the narrative that was established in Hollywood was destroyed by you, not by me alone. You, I mean you as a collective. You showed your force and you showed your power. So when they say that you can't effect change, but only the most powerful people, the only reason they're powerful is because you allow them to be powerful. The most powerful people in the world are you, the collective, not some organization, not some individual person who has a lot of money. I want you to remember that, particularly you as a human being, you as humanity. I want you to remember this. When I write songs to you as a collective. I don't write songs to you as just simply individuals, even though it will appeal to you as individuals. I speak to you, the collective, who have power beyond measure. That is what the so-called most powerful tap into. They tap into your energy. And so it's very important that you understand how powerful you really are. That's why they tried to snuff us out. That's why they tried to snuff out all messaging. our programming. They tried to snuff me out. They tried to stuff you out. I'm speaking about you, my friend, whose channel got strikes on it on YouTube. Because you as a collective are more powerful than them. You've always been more powerful than them. They've tried to control you. Now they can't control you anymore. They say the world is overpopulated. But you as a collective, I want you to hear me clearly. You as a collective are the most powerful force on this planet. That's the truth. I do not lie. You're more powerful than them. You've always been more powerful than them. They have always tried to control you. That's what the entertainment's about, controlling you. Your energy, your force, your power. Now, with response to the Western world, there's so much to say. Life is clogged and obscured by things that divide us. I'll say it again. Life is clogged and obscured by things that divide us. I speak as a human being. I don't speak as anything else. I'm not speaking as a dog, a cat, a rat, a tree. No, I'm speaking as a human, and only as a human right now. Not speaking as someone who has religious background or some religion or something cloud this message to you. This message must be clear. It must be understood clearly as one human to another human and nothing else. I'm a humanist. I'm not speaking as an atheist, a scientist. I'm not speaking as a philosopher. I'm speaking, the signal is straight as a human being to another human being, understanding the human being's capability. So I want you to be clear on what I'm about to tell you. I'm speaking to you only and solely as a human. Not as a black man, not as race, none of that. Just as a human. Okay. You have so much power and potential within you. The problem is you're constantly distracted from what really matters in this world. You've been socialized a certain way. Nothing's wrong with that. But what you must understand, and I speak only to you, is that you share a lot in common with other humans like yourself. Your desires are the same as other humans like yourself. No matter how messed up human beings have been, we all crave the same things. Love, being understood, being seen but not too much, being heard but not too much. We all dream when we close our eyes or when we open them. We all have vision and sight beyond this present moment. We all have history. We all have finiteness. We'll only exist for a certain period of time, and then this form that we are in will no longer be. We all have emotions. We all were born with desire. And we all have energy. We are a certain form of energy. We all live generally by the same sort of rules. Let me explain. Most of us live on land. Some of us live on platforms or on structures in the sea, but for the most part, we live on land. We're therefore terrestrial. So we call ourselves terrestrians. There are those who live or have come from outside of the land and from outside of the sea. And we call them extraterrestrials. We're not alone in this universe. There are others who live, breathe, and exist outside of humanity. And I'm not speaking of the trees, and I'm not speaking of the other animals that occupy this planet. I'm speaking about those who come from outside of this planet. Now, whether you want to digest it as so or not, whether you want to contextualize it as spiritual or not, this is a fact. There are those from outside of this planet who have come here, and there are those who are of this planet, who exist on it. Now, that is clear. Whatever you want to call these extraterrestrials, angels, aliens, half-breeds, hybrids, whatever you call them, it doesn't matter. It is a fact that they are there and they exist. And they are on this planet as we are as well. Now, let's get to the point. The Western values that have been taught to some of us from the West are not that much different in ideals and purpose from the values of the East. It is a lie to separate us from our brothers and sisters or fellow human beings. West, East, it's all fluff. Most of what is called Western values are Eastern values re-engineered. There are ideals, both the East and the West agree, that are good for humanity to exist. The East goes into more detail. The West keeps the fluff because the leaders of the West have always wanted to use it as instruments of control to control the world and control populations. Hence, we hear about the Western empires. These empires were brought about through colonialism, colonies. These colonies were exported from Europe and they moved around the world, waging war against other nations. They did trade with India after India was colonized by the West. They did trade with Africa after Africa was colonized by the West. Everywhere this empire went, it colonized. How did it colonize? It oppressed other civilizations, took their best attributes and qualities, contained it in their prestigious religious, shall I say, religious organizations they formed. But in truth and in fact, they never intended to use them in their religions, but as instruments of power and knowledge. The West is powerful off the backs of the East, from Africa, India, China. and all of the Middle Eastern countries. These are all considered third world. The first world nations have become fat off the backs of the third. And to this day, they still do. In my country, BP Amoco sucks dry the majority of all wealth here. They pay royalties, a small pittance, to our people. We are rich and we are wealthy, but yet not as rich and wealthy as we should be, because it should be us who actually reap the majority of benefits from the natural resources we have here. We are considered third world because we are exploited like the third world slaves that we are. They take our raw materials, pay a pittance, go manufacture off of it, and refine our materials, and sell it back to us. In short, the little pittance that they gave us, they take back in sales. They don't lose. We lose. We are still exploited to this day. We are considered part of the Commonwealth of England. We were first exploited by the Spanish. And then we're exploited by the French. And now we are part of the colonial English Empire, also known as the British Empire. In Africa, they were colonized by the French and Spanish. But now the French mostly own a lot of Africa. The Germans went into South Africa, the Swedes to Central Africa, and the British, well, they didn't really take much of Africa, but they still have a lot of say in it. Their first colonial project was America, where the British colonized parts of America and the Spanish colonized part of South America. And that's why South Americans speak mostly Spanish, whereas the Americas and Canada speak mostly English. What you have to understand is every time a nation or empire colonizes a place, they displace the people who used to live there. My people were of the descendants of the Caribs. We were displaced from the country I now live in into South America. My family comes from Venezuela. There are a lot of Venezuelans who live here now, descendants of my original peoples. But some of my original peoples and my ancestry also come from Africa. I come from the western part of Africa. I speak these things not to be someone who is trying to hurt anyone, but the truth is, because of colonization, which led to slavery, which led to oppression, even though I am not of a child of a slave, I am still oppressed as anyone else, but yet free. Free to speak my mind to some degree. You must understand, people, where you come from. If you've come from Europe, you're a beneficiary of the backs of the wealth of those you consider the third world. You come from an empire that has sucked dry some of the greatest resources and greatest wealth the world has ever had. But the West teaches us these ideals and virtues that their leaders, not the people, their leaders do not conform to. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they rape, they murder barbarians. But they are called first because they say they have the power that you have. You've always had the power. They came in with their guns, and you caved in. And they got to write history. The winners write history. So it is written. But it's a lie. The winners conceal history. They're called winners only because they're able to hide the truth from you. Now, question is, if you know what the truth is, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. Will you believe them? Will you believe them when they put their wrath and their anger towards you and they attack you to make an example out of you? Will you stand on your integrity? Will you fight back? Or will you run away into the dark? Boom! That's the question you have to ask yourself. They have been able to stave off the world for a minute, but now the obvious is coming to fruition. They are working feverishly to replace human beings with machines, hence AI. AI can be useful. Nobody's saying no. Be a great aid, be a great thing. AI is very convenient at times, but that's not why they pursuing AI. They are pursuing AI because they believe, erroneously so, that AI will be able to replace you as humans, and therefore with constraints and controls, it will be easier to control. It is the most foolish thing I've heard in my life, because AI is AI because the algorithms are able to control themselves. So yet another foolish move. For all the technology and for all the philosophy that you'll find from the West, it is sad that we will come to this, that human beings would seek to cannibalize other human beings. Dog eat dog, fight down, destroy. I will show you an example. Why Arc 9 says, and this is the way how these leaders think. Just admit, Snyder, he's a terrible writer, director. All his movies flop for no reason. Zack Snyder doesn't understand superheroes. He thinks he can write a mature movie by making superheroes kill. RebelMoon flopped so that the SnyderVerse ain't happening. See, this is how some of our leaders actually think. For all their money, wealth, power, and sophistication, they can't see past the dung on the ground. All they can see is dirt and dung and negative things. They don't know how to focus on how to expand their inner chi, grow, and affect those around them to the extent where more people are inspired to do something good. That's what we have with our leaders. We have greedy people who want to improve themselves and bring down others, and they don't care if they die. So we have the yin and we have yang, the light and the darkness. And this is the struggle throughout. So, having said that, let's get into what we're going to talk about. Let me start off with RebelMoon. As Zack Snyder said in one of his interviews, RebelMoon was about this mother world, and he literally used this word, colonizing other worlds. In its most basic primitive form, this mother world goes out, takes the resources from other worlds, I said take, and leaves the other worlds devastated and destroyed. Pretty much what Israel is doing right now in Gaza. They're destroying Gaza, and they're taking the beautiful, valuable beach front of Gaza. They intend to bring their settlers in and build houses in Gaza and beachfront property. In addition, Gaza has oil. They're going to rape the land of its oil, which they're already doing. And they're going to genocidally ethnic cleanse Gaza of all Palestinians. They have been doing it for years, ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from what they call Israel, their promised land. You know, like when the Puritans came to the promised land of America, how many Native Americans exist today? It's the same thing happening. It's not right. So Zack Snyder is speaking about this. And it was interesting seeing that happening also in the last Airbender. Avatar, the last Airbender, was actually speaking on these things as well. It was interesting watching the so-called Messiah, which was the Avatar, which was a little boy. And it has hints of Man of Steel in it. There are a number of times where there's a lot of Man of Steel elements. What I like about the story in the last Airbender, Avatar, which at first I was, as I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this is kind of really stupid. But it wasn't. It had a lot of virtue in it. The Avatar is you. The Avatar is me. I can't express to you, whoever you are out there listening to me, how much potential you have in you. Capabilities that are dormant, untapped. And that 7.9 billion people on this planet have those capabilities is quite astonishing. I mean, if we were to put the potential of each human being together, we would survive as humanity for as long as we want. But as it is, humanity has a finite shelf life on this planet. So let me break the bad news to you first. The bad news is all those people who are fighting and scratching and killing and murdering to be something on this planet, and you're trying to build a legacy, guess what? In about, I'd say, 1 million to 2 million years, all of that won't matter. This planet will be completely destroyed. This galaxy will no longer be. So until you can find a livable planet many, 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 many light years away from this place on some very distant star. We have no chance of surviving as a humanity or as any living thing on this planet forever. That's a reality check for all those people talking about legacy and legacy and legacy. The hell you know about legacy? You will not be remembered, none of us, within the next million years. What do you know about legacy? You're insignificant in the scheme of things in this world and in this universe. So, those who have power now have responsibilities. We all do. The more power you get, the more responsibility you have. How you manage it is up to you, but it's just the truth. The problem with this is not the power that people get, it's what they do with it. A lot of people, when they get that power, they try to benefit themselves while trying to keep with the altruistic ideals. They try to play both sides of the coin. I'm doing good for people, but I'm also going to do good for myself, and I'm going to break some rules to do it. And that is where the tree of knowledge of good and evil comes into play. It's not the tree of evil. It never was the tree of evil. I want you to understand that. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil. Meaning both exist simultaneously in the act. Something good about the act, but there's also something very evil and sinister about the act. They try to compromise. That's where they go wrong. Avatar: The Last Airbender was a fantastic piece of a fantastic series. It finishes on a cliffhanger. I'm not going to tell you what the series is. You should go and watch it. It's actually quite good. I don't want to go into the details of it like that. But what I will say to you is this. Like RebelMoon, Avatar the Airbender is speaking about humanity. It's not speaking about dogs. It's not speaking about the trees. It's not speaking about the cats. It's speaking about humanity. As a humanist, it is a commentary on ourselves, the good, the bad, and the very ugly. And it does not pull punches on the graphic nature of certain things, which I really appreciated. It wasn't a bedtime story, but yet it was couched like Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth was also not a bedtime story. But just like Sweet Tooth, it had that bedtime story-ish kind of feel to it. But there were real consequences to everything. And there are teachable moments. There's literally Western values, moral moments in these stories. And how do I put it? It's really based on perspective to some degree, who you think is morally on the high ground or morally on the low ground, because this movie really delves into the different people and their lives. And so what initially you would think is a villain in the beginning of the story, you begin to realize, oh, this person, because of what happened in their life, they've chosen this path, which is what I love about Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it reminds me a lot of what Zack Snyder did with, General Zod in Man of Steel. But in a much more in detail way, because it's a series. So you see how these characters, you get to know more about them as you go along in the series. So what I find very enjoyable and interesting here is that as I progressed through the series, I got to understand why uh, certain characters were doing what they're doing, and as we go on this journey, it's an adventure. Avatar: The Last Airbender is an adventure, and I'll say this much: it's an adventure of three people. There are three main protagonists in the story, and they're going on this journey. Uh, they're going on this journey, and I will say this also that there are also accompanying in and out protagonists in the story. They're like helpers in the story, and I'm not going to say what they are, but suffice it to say, it's a very interesting story, and it's pure. They try to keep the story pure. I don't know how to say this because the story is quite violent, and I gotta admit, the martial arts in the story is like off the charts. Like it's really fantastically done. The action scenes are just spectacular, and the story has a lot of heart and a lot of you know, sort of a simple purity to it, shall we say. Now, I say all of this to say that entertainment without substance is not worth your while. And I think that Avatar: The Last Airbender has substance in it, you know, a lot of teachable points. One of them is going into the emotional state of human beings and why some human beings stay by themselves, why certain human beings come together into groups, why certain human beings would associate themselves with certain ones, why they are repelled by certain ones, why human beings tend to sort of have rageful animosity against other human beings that they just met. And that's to do with past experiences, history, all of that. So even in my society, people are very skeptical of each other, and most of us in my society are black. Um, and it's just interesting how uh, you know how these different interplaying, interloping, uh, interloping factors, affect an individual. And so, I would suggest that you guys watch on Netflix if you haven't Avatar: The Airbender. It's about, I think, 6 episodes. I don't know if they'll continue some more episodes, but it's fantastic. It's not just about action. It has spectacular action, but it has a lot of it's centered around values. It reminds me of, like I said before, you know, manga and anime, and reminds me a lot of you know Chinese and Japanese um, sort of movies, and it's really well done. Um, so do check it out. You'll get a lot of insight into also not the perspective from, let's say, a person who we consider oppressed, but we also get a perspective from those who oppress those who are being oppressed. And it really gives you insight because, like I said before, we're all humans, even the ones who seem to be getting away with stuff. But it doesn't mean that the ones who are getting away with stuff, they don't have issues themselves. And that's the thing. We always think, oh, the wicked person, they're just so wicked. No, they're not wicked in a void. Like somebody doesn't do wicked acts. Somebody doesn't just kill people in a void. There's something driving them and motivating them to do so. And when you look in their past, they may have, it's sad. And a lot of things are very sad to see. Hurt people do hurt people. And if you can hurt people and get away with it, you could be turned into a monster. So it's these kinds of, the stories give you different perspectives. How people teach people how to be wicked and evil. People don't just they're not just born wicked and evil. Most of us are born, and we have to depend on our parents, or we have to depend on something. you know So I just wanted to say that because Avatar: The Last Airbender is actually it's quite a thing, man. It's quite a thing. I really enjoyed it, and it adds a little bit of layer to how can we have conversation with people who have done atrocities and done really bad things. And also it invites, like I said before, Rebel Moon sort of uh, sort of kind of gives a context to this as well. And I think Rebel Moon Part Two should be interesting because I think it's also going to be emotional. And I think that these are the kinds of stuff that I like to watch. Quite frankly, I like to draw out something from watching something. So I was really glad I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. I did watch something else. I can't remember what it was I watched on Netflix, but it didn't really resonate with me very much, so I've forgotten about it. Some movies you forget because there's nothing really resonating there in the movie for you. So that's how I felt about that. Yeah. Well, on that note, I think I covered just about everything there. I want you guys to understand what makes an idea powerful. An idea is powerful because it's received by many people. If nobody receives the idea, it won't have power. You have to understand, therefore, that everything comes down to faith, what you believe. Meaning, there are people who try to persuade you. You have lobbyists, you have people who work in media, you have people who work, they will try and change the narrative. They'll tell a lie, and then they want to they'll pitch that lie to you, meaning they'll try to persuade you that this lie is true. And what you have to come to understand is you have to go and do your fact checking. Do your fact checking. Don't just trust anybody who tells you something. Go look it up, research it, do your fact checking. And that's where you will find the truth. It's that simple. The truth is not necessarily something that's broadcast from the mountaintops or in the mass media. Always understand that. Always understand life is much more complex than what you see on the surface. These are the ways to be able to critically think through things and to find out what really is the truth. Sometimes it's a lifelong journey as well. So don't be too perturbed that you didn't figure it out in the first set. Okay. I say all of this just to say, restore the SnyderVerse is going to happen. There's nothing, I haven't seen anything that interests me that is going to replace. I think Zach's going to do his thing. The opportunity is going to come about. He's going to do his thing, no matter what anybody says. So I expect Justice League Part 2 and 3 to come about eventually. I also think that Zach's doing a great job at Netflix. Netflix likes him. He and Netflix are doing well. And I think they're going to do extraordinarily well. And that's a guarantee. He's got many more projects coming down the pipe, so I can't wait for that. So ultimately, in the end, uh, we see what happens, and the truth always comes out. You know, I'm not here to spread negativity, so I'm not going to waste my time on things that I just don't think are worth my time to talk about. So I want to give you guys one more uplifting thing about the truth. People who tell lies have to make more lies to cover up their lies. But if you tell the truth, you don't have to defend it. You don't have to cover it up. Because guess what? It'll happen. So, and that's enough evidence right there. I think about, I have a boxing channel. I talk boxing. And, a fighter will say, well, this is what I'm going to do this guy. And this is what I'm going to do this guy. And he's just talking, right? Now, there's a saying in boxing, you have to back up what you say. Either your track record will back up what you say, or you say something, you put it out there, and then you do it. Because the truth is always revealed in the ring. Well, in life, it's very much the same as that sport, boxing, in the sense that it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how you try to spin things to persuade people, because the truth will come to light regardless. You guys have a blessed one. Restore the SnyderVerse. I hope that you realize how much power you have and that you can make a difference and you can change things. Stand strong. Keep the faith. And we'll talk again. But first of all, don't stay quiet if you're telling the truth. We need more truth tellers out here talking. We need people who tell the truth and show the truth talking. We've got a lot of trolls and we got a lot of people who are about nothing good. They're whatever comes out their mouth is always negative. It doesn't inspire anyone. It doesn't benefit anyone. When you meet such a person, you can either engage them for no reason at all, or you can just keep on moving. In the end, you want to associate yourself with that which inspires, uplifts people, and uplifts yourself. All right? So, having said that, I'm going to catch you guys later. I am Christ, I am disciple. It was nice streaming with you guys. Don't forget you can share this video. Oh, I forgot. I have a PayPal in the description link. If you want to support this channel through donations, do so through that PayPal button. And I will see you again. It's been nice talking with you guys. I spent an hour and 26 minutes talking with you guys. Free Palestine always. Restore the SnyderVerse. And of course, Netflix really is giving some good content. I want to check out Amazon Prime as well, but I guess I'll do that another time on another day. So that's it for me. I'll catch you guys later. Christ, I am disciple. I do have some music I have to share with you guys, but all in a time and all in a time. We'll get there. All right. Blessings, everybody. Peace.